Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the conversation series, The Fight for Justice Must Go On, a conversation series conducted by University Collective. Day before yesterday, we had the honor of hosting a conversation with Dr. Kafil Khan, and today I am extremely happy to have this opportunity of having this conversation with our very own Sharjeel Usmani. Sharjeel Usmani is one of the forefront torchbearers of the citizenship amendment protests, and he is also the the national secretary of Fraternity movement. Sharjeel Usmani is currently pursuing his bachelor's from Aligarh Muslim University, and he has widely written and spoken about matters of the movement. So, Sharjeel, welcome to University Collective and this conversation series.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Okay. So, Shajil, talking about your arrest, it was very uncommon. It was very strange. You are the first person of the movement who has been arrested by an anti-terrorism squad. And anti-terrorism squad is not a party in any of the cases you have been charged with. So they do not have such any right to question you or to interrogate you. Certainly not arrest you. So what made you such a nuisance that the state had to put in so much effort in arresting you? Also, the fact that you were arrested without any warrant, they didn't show any ID, your family didn't know for the next 24 hours of your arrest about your whereabouts.
See, I like all the activists. All of us are mentally prepared that we will be arrested sooner or later. So, I was also mentally prepared to be arrested by police. But when I learned that ATS has arrested me, which usually deals with terror cases, that came as a shock. Like that surprised me, and the fact that ATS came to arrest a student who was a part of a student movement inside a university campus, it means that like every Muslim youth, like I say that every Muslim youth is a potential terrorist in the eyes of the state, and ATS has nothing to do with the CAA movement, unless and until the state feels that a Muslim youth who can protest is a terrorist or can be a potential terrorist. So it only shows the prejudice, the state's prejudice towards Muslims, towards Muslim youths who refuse to become victims, and who are fighting for their right. So yeah, it was a shocker that ATS arrested me, and also all the cases I've been charged with, it were related with the protest in AMU that you know that turned violent in police version. If you go by the police version, the entire charge against me was that I was part of a protest. I was in fact the mastermind of a protest that turned violent. So that was the state's version, and even in that, ATS had no role to play. Like this ATS shouldn't like arrest me, but ATS did, and that should be not just condemned. It should be fought, and ATS should answer that, and the state must answer why does Muslim students are uh, arrested by ATS like this. I'm not a special case when this whole drama, the witch hunting of Tabligh Jamaat started. So in Bihar, the members of Tabligh Jamaat were arrested by ATS. So so it looks like ATS has been made this whole the institution that is called anti-terror squad is made to witch hunt Muslims, either Muslims like me who are protesting or Muslims like Tabligh Jamaat who had nothing to do with, uh, who were busy with their work, which is very non-political and has nothing to do with the workings of the state. So this only shows the prejudice of the state towards Muslims. That in India, uh, any Muslim who speaks uh, about his or her right, about their rights, uh, can be a potential threat to the national security. in the ideal state.
The about the period between your arrest and the moment of when you were presented before the city judicial magistrate of Aligarh. What were those 24 hours like?
So as soon as I was arrested, I was blindfolded, and they took me inside a car. There were two people on either side with their pistols on my body, pointing towards my body. And since I was blindfolded, I couldn't see anything, but I could hear everything. And when we hit the road, I was being taken to Lucknow, which I learned after a while, uh, when I slightly removed my blindfold to see the road signs. Then I got to know that we were going to Lucknow. So they started asking me random questions. Like all the questions they asked had nothing to do with CEA protest or AMU violence. So the questions they asked were like very strange, very absurd. Like the ATS officer said that, do you know Shadab Unna? He was arrested. He was arrested by us with the help of RAW from Nepal. He is a Indian Mujahideen recruit. Do you know him? How do you know him? He was talking about you. I would say that I don't know him. Then he would change the question. Then he would say, why do you have so many friends, Kashmiri friends in AMU? I'll say that I have friends from every place. I have few Kashmiri friends who were my classmates. Then I have some friends from Kerala and UP and other states as well. So it's not that I specifically have friends. I only have friends from Kashmir. So then he would change the question and say, on February 26th, there was 50,000 rupees deposited in your bank account. Where did that money come from, and who deposited it? Things like that. Then again they'll go back to some other name, that Asadullah was arrested from some other country with the help of RAW. How do you know him? These were the types of questions, but it was a casual conversation. It wasn't interrogation at that time. He would ask me about Sharjeel, the other Sharjeel. So, how do you know Sharjeel Bhai? So he had our chat history. So he knew that like he came to AMU on 11 December, and I was the one who invited him. So things like that. Then he would also inquire me about other students. He would ask me about SIO, who was funding Shaheen Bagh. Then again he would go to some IM recruit thing. Then he would ask me, Rafa Dan karte ho, nahi karte ho, things like that. And then when I was taken to Lucknow, so oh, it was an ATS facility. I suppose it's their UP headquarter, and they were calling it campus. I was still blindfolded. They were calling it campus. I was taken to block 2, third floor. On the right side there was a room. When I was made to sit inside the room on a chair, then only was the blindfold removed. So it was a big room. It looked like a hotel room. Uh, it had a huge LCD TV, a sofa set, a coffee table, a double bedroom, and there were four black commandos on each side. No, four or two. There were two. So they were standing with their guns, and then the formal interrogation started. Then they started asking me questions on the same line. They did not ask me about the CEA protest or why I was part of it. Uh, they talked to me about Kashmir, about uh, certain terrorists whom they claimed that I was in touch with. Then towards the end, they started asking me how doing, since I was under surveillance, they were reading my messages and they were tapping my phone calls. So they would ask me, how do you know Colin Gonzalez? How do you know Rebecca Jones? Why did you How did you meet Asad Owaisi? Like I posted some picture with Asad Owaisi on his birthday on my Twitter. So how do you know him? Then the question shifted to that, but that was all, and I was treated the same way other Muslims are, treated in police custody. I wasn't given any special treatment. So if that answers your question.
Okay. So it can be termed as a very hostile arrest, right? Almost a kidnapping. And then 2 months of being jailed. And I was just listening to your interview to the Quint, and you said that the prisoners who were with you in jail, they called you a terrorist from Shaheen Bagh. So it must be a very hostile environment with some hostile people. So how did you survive in it? Like, what was the strength? What was the
Jail,
source of inspiration?
jail was easy for me. Like it, like I don't think we should be like see going to jail and coming out has done one good thing that it has pushed my boundaries. Like when we start like doing activism inside a campus, we we define our boundaries that we'll do everything to the point that we aren't suspended. But when we are suspended, we say that we'll do anything. We can do anything because we are suspended. Like we'll get suspended another time. So then when we moved out of the university, then we say that we'll do everything, but to the point that we aren't jailed. But when we are jailed, that pushes our boundaries. I am ready to go jail again. So that's how it is. But inside jail, the situation turned hostile only when there was a TV in my barrack. So they put movies every night after 7. So at one day there was this movie on 26/11, the Mumbai attacks, the movie in which Anupam Kher is playing a chef of Taj Hotel. So on that day, all the almost all the inmates were they were having uh, very heated debate among themselves. Like मुसलमान तो ऐसे ही होते हैं, ये लोग का यही काम होता है, मारने से पहले सोचते नहीं. So I wasn't part of that debate, but I was being referred by the people that ये भी देखो वही सब करके आया है. So that was, but it wasn't hostile because I just used to go to them directly. मुझे बोलना वो पे बोलो. And since it's a jail and like outside jail, in the outside world, you can lynch Muslims easily, like you do. Like in past 1 week, there are 3 cases of lynching Muslims to death. But that you can't do inside jail. You are under surveillance 24 into hour. You are under cameras all the time, and you have security guards moving around. So I knew I had that humanity, so I could fight them off. It was only verbal conversation, so it wasn't hostile. I stood up to them, and there were, since this one bad thing about the Indian state, that although our population here is, according to government data, 14%, the jails have astonishingly large number of Muslim inmates, like uh, 40%, 44% against their population. So there were a lot of Muslims too who were very supportive, like who used to take care of me. So it wasn't hostile, and but yes, jail is not a good place to be in. Uh, the room I was in, it was like it's an old barrack. It was constructed by the Britishers, and there's a plate at the entrance of that barrack. It reads that the length of this barrack is 120 feet, the width is 30 feet, providing 600 cubic space to each prisoners. And then the written it's constructed for 42 prisoners, and the barracks capacity was for 42 prisoners, and we were 145 people inside that room. So we got only as much space to sleep as we would get in a coffin. So that is the living condition there. There's just one bathroom inside jail, inside our barrack for 145 people. So that is there. So that's for everyone, every prisoner. I wasn't, it wasn't especially for me. So everybody had to use the same facility that was there. But the worst thing about jail is that it has every social evil that is in the society in its rawest form, in its most original form inside jail. So only a Valmiki would be cleaning toilets inside jail. So, and they would proudly say, the people who were in charge of making prisoners work would proudly say कि जिसका जो काम है उसको वही करना चाहिए. So according to them, Valmiki का काम is to clean toilets. So only Valmiki would do it. Pandits were not given any work, and if in case they were given any work, it was only to distribute roti in the plates of the fellow inmates. That was all they did. So that was it. It wasn't a very bad experience, and I'm prepared to, like,
Go again.
if this is the cost of, of carrying forward the movement, then it's a very small price to pay.
Yeah, definitely. That's what we expect from you. Okay. So next thing, a lot of your friends and family have said in the pieces regarding your arrest that you were arrested not because of your activities or because you protested, but because of your writings, the pieces you have written, which sort of threatened the state, and the fact that you were putting a narrative behind the anti-CAA movement, and the state couldn't counter it. So they thought they should just silence the source. So you were arrested to be silenced. So is it your writing in general, like everything you write, it is threatening, or is it some specific pieces which the states find more concerning?
I don't know. I don't think any of my writings was, in a way so threatening that the state would have to, literally put me inside jail, because there are a lot of people who are writing much uh, important and they are much critical of the government, more than me, more than many people, and they are still free. So my arrest was part of, what I believe is, my arrest was part of the larger witch hunting that was going on against all the NTC activists. So I was part of that witch hunting. But one thing that I stressed on in my writings and even in my speeches was that this isn't a fight between, like, the CA movement wasn't a fight between good India and the bad India, or the BJP versus everyone. No, and it was for me and for many others. It was a fight. It was a struggle for our self-respect, our dignity as a community, and it was a fight for justice. It was a struggle between the state and the Muslim community. So all the brokers or the middlemen who were talking for us on behalf of us to the state, we sidelined them, and the community was talking directly, negotiating directly for their rights and for their self-respect and dignity with the state. That was what I believed, and this one thing that I wrote that turned out to be a bit controversial, but I still stand by what I said. It was in solidarity with the one of the accused in Delhi violence, Shah Rukh. So what I wasn't, that this, it also depends on how you look at the thing. Like, I'm saying that I advocate and I support Shah Rukh's right to self defense, and it is everybody's right to, defend himself. It's a law. It's a right that is given to us by not just our constitution. It's also, I think, a part of human rights. So and there's one thing that you have all rights to charge Shah Rukh for carrying an illegal weapon. And if his gun was illegal, frame him for that. Try him for that in your court. But you can't call him a terrorist. You can't call him an aggressor. There was an ongoing riot, and Shah Rukh had to defend himself and his fellow men who were being killed during the riot. So like, there's a judgment from Bombay High Court, Nagpur bench, yes, that 1953 judgment So there was this incident in Madhya Pradesh where the Sindhis were there was a anti-Muslim riot in Madhya Pradesh, and the Sindhis were killing Muslims there. So there were two brothers who were locked inside their shop, and the mob reached to the door of their shop, and they started beating up the mosque, beating up the door of their shop, and one of the brothers had a pistol with him, and he shooted in his self-defense, killing one and injuring one more. So then later he was tried for murder in court, and the Nagpur bench of Bombay High Court ruled that he had right to kill in his self-defense, and he killed only one. That is the judgment. That is the real judgment. So maybe in if our judiciary and if our police system wasn't as compromised as it is today, Shahrukh would have been given his right to self-defense. And what if Shahrukh did not have a gun? Maybe if he just had an iron rod or a stick. So shouldn't he like use that in his self-defense? So I'm basically I'm not arguing for violence, but I'm arguing for self-defense. Every human has has right to his self-defense, and it's a natural law that if you are going to play with someone's life, be it a human or any creature, he is going to fight back, and so did Shahrukh. So I stand by what I said, and I am in solidarity. I support his right to self-defense. All the controversies aside, but I stand by my statement. Yeah.
Right. So some of your pieces may have threatened the state, not all of them. So you gave in an interview with The Wire, you gave a quote which has like become very famous. I think Police Project also picked it up, and it was you saying that your arrest that you are not going to celebrate your release from jail because and then you give an anecdote that it is like a man is being threatened by a knife and then the man removes the knife and tells you to celebrate. I'm not going to celebrate. That man should apologize for putting that knife on me on the first place. That's what you said, and it has become something like everyone is quoting it and everyone is thinking about it. So what were you thinking when you said it? Like, what is the idea behind it and what did you want to convey to everyone, who is going to read this book or who is going to listen to this quote?
I don't know. It's like it's very natural that I did not. At the end of the day, I'm not getting anything. No. I was incarcerated for 2 months, and then I was told that you are free. So where's the victory part? It's the state has lost. That is true, but it's not my victory. I have lost two months. I could not talk to my parents. So how should I see it as my victory? The state should apologize for kidnapping me. The ATS should apologize, for arresting me and for viewing me as a potential terrorist. The police should apologize for putting false charges on me, and the judiciary should apologize for letting the police keep me in jail for 2 months. Then only we can think in that direction that there can be some sort of victory. Also, if you look at all the cases, say for example Safura's case. Safura was charged with UAPA. She was slapped with UAPA. UAPA is the biggest law, it's an anti-terror law. That's the only law you can biggest law in terms of keeping someone behind bars. So state did everything it had. It used all its resources, to keep someone like Safura inside prison. So if we get her out because of all the pressure we made or the people involved with the international, when Shapura was released, when Shapura Zaga was released, so what did she get at the end of the day? She was, illegally kept in prison, and then after several months she was released. So how is that victory? I don't know matlab, how can and for every person, for every Sharjeel coming out of jail, there are 10 a dozen, at least a dozen other Muslims known by no one going inside the jail, inside the same jail. So I don't know where's the victory part. I cannot see that.
for everyone who is being released, there are 10 more who are going inside or who are already inside and they are not even being
Huh.
documented.
I have my privileges, the the media is quoting, as you said, and Joe had also talking to me. There are like hundreds of other people in the prisoner who are also incarcerated illegally without anything, without any like real charges. They are like they are just living their life inside jail, and no one's talking about them. Nobody knows them. So it's my privilege that people are talking to me. They are asking how did you feel in taking my course. So, but I am seeing. I know I've lived with people who spent like 10 years, 5 years inside jail for not doing anything, for just being Muslims. So, and there will be more. This is not going to stop. I came out, but there are a dozen, at least a dozen people who will go inside, and nobody will talk about them. So this cannot be a victory, and we shouldn't look at it as a victory. There's some I don't know, some philosophers said that, some leaders said that if I cannot dance to it, it's not my revolution. So that is it. It's not my revolution.
Right. We don't like right now know how many tabligis are in jail or how many people have been picked off after the Delhi pogrom. That's
Yes.
the and so like ending this conversation, is there any concluding remark you would want to give on the fight that we are fighting? You know, this larger fight, which is not only against CAA or only against the current government, but which is aimed at achieving larger emancipation of the whole Muslim community from South India. Any concluding remark you want to give on people who are fighting this and people who have been a victim of
Uh,
this?
First of all, like our priority should be to not forget as a community, to not forget the people who are still in jail, who have who are kept in jail for raising our voice, for fighting our battle. So we have in past done that. We have forgotten many people who were fighting for us, and that's the first thing we have to do. And also during the CA movement, what I felt was that it was the first time we had that Muslim consciousness, that a girl from Kerala, you know, who is who has very different culture from a North Indian Muslim, uh, who speaks a very different language, who have the different experiences, different idea of life, idea of dignity, idea of freedom. I could relate to her experiences. I could relate to her speeches. My mother could relate to her speeches, or somebody from West Bengal. He has his own struggles, and he was speaking. He was also part of a CA protest, and my father is looking up to him. So that Muslim consciousness shouldn't die, because uh, in Urdu we would say that एहसास कमतरी से एहसास कौमियत तक का जो सफर हुआ है हमारी कौम का, हम लोगों का, that feeling of Muslim consciousness should not die, and we need to work in that direction. And adding to that, I don't think there's anything to be afraid of, because this is the last thing we can, like, after this strip us of our citizenship. There's nothing more to left to fight. So this is the last and the final battle. So there's no going back, and I am very sure that we'll get back all the leaders who are still in jail, be Asif Bhai, Sharjeel Bhai, Miran, uh, and others. And the fight will be fought with even more strength. The people who did not come to the front in the first phase, I'm sure they would now proactively work, and I don't know, our work only is only to, हमारे काम बस कोशिश करना है, बस, it's in God's hand. But but we will try. And I think like talking to my mother, talking to my neighbors, the way, uh, the way they are looking up to us, the students, the way my mother is praying for Asif bhai or Sharjeel bhai. She hasn't met her, she doesn't know where they belong, she doesn't have any idea, she has just seen their pictures. So that consciousness is not is something very valuable to us, to the Muslim community, and we need to keep that safe, we need to keep that intact, we need to let it live, and the victory will be ours, inshallah ta'ala.
Inshallah, the victory will be ours. And thank you so much, Sharjeel, for having this conversation with us.
Thank you
And
for having me.
thank you for having me.